Welcome to the Spawn Chunks, episode number 329 for Monday, December 23rd, 2024, although we're recording this on Friday, December 13th, so unlucky for some. This is a podcast all about Minecraft, available across all major podcast platforms, including YouTube. If you're enjoying the show, consider subscribing wherever you're listening to this. My name is Johnny, but the internet knows me as Pixel Riffs, and joining me as always is Joel Duggan. Hi, Joel.
Hello, and speaking of names, we were talking about the names that we give our fictional characters in tabletop games like D&D or Morkborg, which is something that Johnny is setting up over the next couple of weeks. Getting some new games and getting back into some old games over the holidays. I have never been much for online D&D, but I might have a new session of that coming up in the new year too, so that's going to be fun. I'm going to have to come up with my own names. We were also talking about eyeglasses, which is not necessarily something that you associate with D&D outside of maybe the people that play it, but we were talking about all kinds of different ways and things that people do for improving their sight, contact lenses, cosplay contact lenses, and how much it changes someone's appearance. If you like all that kind of stuff, then check out the Patreon page. That's patreon.com/thespawnchunks. That's where you get the render distance. We hang out for 15-20 minutes before each show, talk about all kinds of stuff that's going on in our lives. And if you find that kind of thing interesting, you can support the show and get the bonus content every single week. We also have things like the Minecraft Hangout that happens once a month. The new one's probably going to happen in January just because, of course, the holidays are at the end of this month. And we also have the Quarterly Hangout coming out in the new year. Those are things that are available to our patrons. The Quarterly Hangout, we go over the numbers, the downloads, things like the Spotify Wrapped that came out recently. And then in the Minecraft Hangout, we talk about just what our community has been building in Minecraft. And of course, now that the Pale Garden is part of Minecraft, we might see some very interesting builds in the new year with the Garden Awakens update. So once again, that's patreon.com/thespawnchunks.
We are recording this one ahead of time just because Joel and I want to take a little bit of time to ourselves and our families over the holiday break. So this one and the next episode you see will both be pre-recorded ahead of time. So we don't have a huge amount to share about what's new in our Minecraft lives. We'll be saving that for the most relevant shows that are coming out. So you'll probably have heard last week what we were doing this week. But Joel, do you have anything to share about your time on the Citadel?
I've just been going through the normal headaches of updating the Citadel to 1.21.4. There are a number of data packs that are not working, and I don't know why, because they were working just fine in 1.21 before, and that was the big shift of like the way that data changed, and so I had to rebuild a couple of my recipe data packs, and from the errors that they were throwing, it looks like I might have to rebuild them again. I might not even bother. It depends on how much time I want to spend doing that. It's really tedious work. It's easy because there's a website that allows me to do it. The destruction.ca is the website that I use. And but when you're going through the different recipes for all the different wood types and all the different wood variants and adding them to a stone cutter, which is very convenient when you're building as much as I am with wood and stone in West Hill. Adding one or two to the list, like adding pale oak, which I thought I was going to have to do, is not too much work. But redoing every wood in Minecraft is tedious. And so if it's not working again and I have to build the whole thing again, I may not, or I may just not rush it. I may just kind of do like one bit at a time. It's also a lot of files to track and they all sound the same and it becomes a real pain in the butt. The other thing that I was doing was adventuring around and looking for other things to fix. And most of the data packs and mods seem to be working okay. The ones that are not are just not updated yet. So I've got a couple of things like I like to remove the view bob from my cursor. The hand still bobs, but the view bob I like to get rid of. I do find I get a little bit motion sick sometimes. And that has not been updated yet. Most of the other mods have, which has been great. Vanilla tweaks have been up to date for a while, so that's great for the little things that we use there. And a lot of that's just quality of life, darker UI, the map mod that I use, that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, the tables and chairs mod that I've been using for a while is now completely broken. All of the tables and chairs that are in the world just don't display. They just don't show up at all. Previously, I was looking for a new way to make new tables and chairs and thinking like, well, I could just leave the other ones where they were and just move on to something else, leave the data pack on the server, and then hopefully they'll display correctly. Well, now they just don't. But to make matters really frustrating, they are displaying visually as jungle trapdoors, and you can't interact with them. Like I can't touch them. There were two pieces for each table and chair. Essentially, a chair was an armor stand, and no, it was a pig actually with a saddle that was invisible, and then a model was replaced, and the chair was displayed. And then the tables are all trapdoors, and so they have the functionality of a trapdoor, but they were displayed as tables. So what would happen is that you'd get the spruce trapdoor would be the actual thing in the world that you would interact with. And then a jungle trapdoor was then giving a different model and overlaid over the spruce trapdoor. So now the spruce trapdoors are all there, which is fine. I can remove those. But the jungle trapdoors for the chairs and the tables are all on the floor, and you can't interact with them. So if you go to try to mine them up to get rid of them, then you just end up mining the block underneath them. So it would be a real pain, but it would at least be less frustrating if I could at least interact with the jungle trapdoors and remove them, because I could just get a new mod and go around and replace all the tables and chairs. Now, that's a lot of work in West Hill. It's frustrating for sure. But the fact that I can't interact with these, now it just looks like all of my interiors in West Hill are one giant glitch. And so I've reached out on the Tables and Chairs Discord to see if I can get some feedback about how to remove this, because I think that there's a bit of a, I'm not exactly sure how to express it, but when you add something like a data pack to your server, there's obviously the risk of it not being supported, and maybe it won't work anymore, and that's fine. You'll have to find some alternatives, but you do expect that you can remove it from the server. And the fact that I can't remove it, even if I remove the data pack from the server, all this stuff still displays in the world. Like it's still part of Minecraft somehow. So I don't know how to remove it yet. And so that's the point of frustration. So I've been digging into the back end and trying to figure that out. And it's a pain, because as I, walk around West Hill now that it's nearly complete and I'm walking through buildings, like everything inside looks like, Joel, what were you doing? Why is everything so all over the place inside when outside everything looks so detailed and refined, right? So that's been pretty frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's not on you. It's like, the
Yeah.
data pack can't be updated. It's probably using a lot of like display entities and stuff that you can't really interact with in survival. So I think worst case scenarios, you just have to treat it as an admin thing and go through and delete a bunch of stuff, maybe using commands. But for all I know, yeah, that would end up being the solution to it. But yeah, unfortunate, and hopefully you find some sort of solution that works for you. It's just a shame to have to go back on all of that work you've done.
Yeah, I just wish I was smart enough to know what command was to remove stuff. There are a couple of like refresh commands and things that were part of the Tables and Chairs data pack website that suggested, hey, if you're upgrading from like version 4 to version 5, run this refresh command or run this command to either remove old ones and install new ones or whatever. And that doesn't seem to work anymore because that's an outdated, I think it was 119 was the last time that it was updated. But the fact that I can't remove it now is really tricky. So I'm hoping to find a way to even just to find out what I'm looking at. Like if you could tell me what it is that I'm looking at, then I could probably like learn how to write a command to remove it. But because I don't even know that much, like this is where like I'm not a coder and I don't know enough about the back end of Minecraft to understand what I'm actually seeing. So that part has been frustrating, because it's, like I said, it's not on me as a mistake, but it's also I am unable to, as the admin on the server, to figure out how to fix it. So now I'm left with like having to rely on someone else to figure out how to do it. So we'll have to see.
Stuff like this is why I'm so happy that my main thing is an unmodded world, and like I don't really mess with data pack stuff all that much, but it's the way it is. In the meantime, I've been doing a little bit of stuff which you'll probably have heard about this last week if you're watching this at the time it publishes, but I'm going to be spending a bit more time with pale moss, because I'm planning on using 2 shulker boxes worth of it for something. At least that's the amount that I gathered when I was digging out a chunk using pale moss and comparing it to green moss. And I'm still thinking about how I can use it in the Windy City, but I've been kind of, I guess, getting used to the aesthetic of it and finding that actually it works quite well with a variety of blocks that I'm already using there. Stuff like tuff, it blends with really well, so I could use it for texture and stuff, and working with more of an airy light blue through white and grey color palette. I think maybe I'll try and sneak some pale moss in there as well. I'm imagining also that with it being so close to Christmas time, at least for those who celebrate, folks who are decorating their Java Minecraft worlds for the holidays are going to be really happy that white leaves have arrived just in time to pepper into these snowy scenes. It's something that feels like it's been missing from Java, where Bedrock players could put a snow layer on leaves and it would turn white. I think it's kind of nice that the pale oak trees have actually given people a chance to do that now. And I'm thinking with pale oak and birch and a couple of the other leaf colors, you could create quite a nice, attractive leaf gradient now that might be kind of fun. So I want to play around a little bit with that this week. But obviously, since we've recorded this out of sequence, it's going to feel like I'm jumping back and forth in the stuff that I'm doing in Survival Guide.
I haven't messed around much with the idea of Christmassy or wintry builds at all in Minecraft. I mean, part of it is just because I've been West Hill focused for 4 years. But we've not ever done anything on the server that you might see on places like Hermitcraft or in Survival Guide, where something seasonal, where like it's the holidays, and we've not done a Halloweeny build, we've not done a Christmas town or something like that. Which that would be fun in that, because the Citadel is such a long-term world, we wouldn't have to finish it all 1 year. Like you could say, all right, for the December, anybody that wants to build in, the Christmas town area, and then just not do it the rest of the year. And then if you haven't finished something, you can just come back and improve upon it, or have new blocks and new Minecraft updates to return to the next year and add more to the Christmas village and just have it grow over time. I mean, because we have those zones on the Citadel, we could easily do like a Christmas village zone. That actually might be a fun way to get a break from West Hill as well. For build ideas. So I might actually ask the rest of the people on the server if they want to do that, because that would be fun.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing I'd never get into in Survival Guide, because by the time Christmas rolls around and I've released episodes about it, it's time to start clearing the decorations up again. So yeah, I do think having a more permanent Christmas area of a world makes more sense than decorating your existing places for Christmas if you're somebody who doesn't have a ton of time to play Minecraft. But
yeah,
I imagine it's the kind of thing that this time of year families can get together and play together, because the kids are going to have some time off school or whatever, and I think it will be a fun little shared project for people to do. But that makes sense why it's so easy to do on a server where, like, I remember the Hermitcraft Season 9 Christmas district was kind of co-built with the Empires lot, because we were visiting around the time that was leading up to Christmas, and it feels a lot easier doing that with a larger group of people, because if you want to clean it up again afterwards, then you've got a lot of people to help out with that at the same time.
Yeah, that's true. If you need to come back and remove everything, there's definitely a few places in Dartmouth Meadows that still have Halloween decorations up from like 4 years ago, for people that don't play on the server anymore. So stuff like that definitely hangs around when you're not, when you don't have like a consistent reset or a consistent group of people that can kind of swoop in and do like the cleanup.
Well, I wonder if anybody from the Minecraft team is building Christmas stuff with their families on their holiday break, which presumably they are taking by this point, which is why we don't have much of a news read for you this week. We're recording ahead of time, and the Minecraft team is probably going to be away for a little while, so we're not expecting any big updates coming down the pipeline anyway. In the meantime, we're going to move straight into Chunk Mail, because this is going to be a holiday mailbag episode. We like doing a couple of these every so often. We do them regularly as part of the Chunk Mail dispenser, but it's always nice to dig into the mailbag a little deeper over the holidays. We are absolutely going to be looking for some new email discussions to come up in the new year, so of course you are welcome to email the show with some ideas and your interpretations of what's going on in Minecraft lately. The email address, as always, is spawnchunkmail@gmail.com. As always, please keep your emails short and to the point. That really helps us include them in the show more easily. But Joel is going to kick us off with this first email.
First email this week is from Ethan D about an ambience block. Hi, Pix and Joel. I was recently playing around with the light block. What if Minecraft had an ambience block which acted the same way as the light block? When you left click an ambience block, it could change the ambient sounds. Example, crickets chirping. The ambience block would probably be for creative mode only, as I can't think of a way to add it to survival. Ethan fell into a ravine while listening to crickets.
Well, you've made a great case for why we don't have an ambience block already. But see, I think that the thing with this idea, you've sort of hit the nail on the head with the email. It would be for creative mode only, and the places people are looking for ambient sounds is for immersion in survival worlds. I think a lot of the suggestions we get about ambient sounds come from survival players who just want the biomes to feel a little bit more real around them as they interact with the game. And so making it a great tool for map makers means that, creative mode players are going to have a field day with it, but it wouldn't be that helpful for where I think the game is lacking in ambience and doesn't really have much room to improve, because I think there are already a few other tools creative players can use to trigger ambient sounds. There are commands that let you trigger sounds. You can make note blocks sound slightly different with player head additions or custom resource packs. And I think with creative mode at your fingertips, you've probably got a lot more options than you do in survival, so you could create ambient sounds if you wanted to. The difference is them just being loaded into the vanilla game as opposed to something you have to source and turn into a resource pack yourself or find a resource pack online. So I think, if anything, an ambience block is something that you'd want to be available to survival players to control atmosphere in survival builds where they don't have as many options as creative players.
And I think we've seen something like this recently in Hermitcraft, where they used records, like discs, to like custom, like it's like a data pack with a custom resource pack where you can actually use discs in a jukebox, but then you can record your own basically MP3 and assign it to different discs. And they had all kinds of funny, I think the Hermits had like different things that they had said on stream or different catchphrases that they use and whatnot, and very creative. And you could easily do that if you found like a download of an ambient sound and you wanted to use that in your world. Like that would be a great way to add your own ambient block, have the control. I like the idea of more player control for ambient sounds, and I like the way that they use existing blocks for things, not necessarily like this for sound, but how you can use blocks in different ways. And I think that this would be a really cool opportunity. Rather than having an ambient sound block, maybe something in the world could emit an ambient sound. So rather than walking through, let's say, a forest and hearing birds chirping or squirrels or whatever, or crickets, maybe crickets would be a good example in like the swamp. Well, maybe the cricket sound comes from a combination of a couple of blocks that are naturally spawning in the swamp. And if you recreate that elsewhere, then you can get that sound as well. And what made me think about this was the recent edition of the Creaking Heart, and how you can collect a Creaking Heart, but it doesn't do anything unless you bring it home and you put it between two pale oak logs. Then it will actually activate and spawn creaking. And I was thinking, like, what if it was something like that for like a birch leaf block, and you had to put a birch leaf block between two birch logs, which doesn't look normal. Like that's not you wouldn't find that naturally necessarily in the world, at least not now. But if we did that on our own, maybe that could create the sound, and then you could place the sound wherever you want. The difficulty there is, how do you communicate that to players? Like, how do you know when you're walking through a biome that the ambient sounds that you're hearing are coming from a block combination and not just the ambient sound that's built into the game? And the answer is you don't. And that said, I don't know that the game has really communicated that you can kidnap a Creaking Heart, bring it home, and put it between two pale oak logs and get it to work either. I think that was from the Mojang presentation. I don't remember or have seen anything in game that indicates that that is how you do it. I have only seen one Creaking Heart in game, and I don't remember whether it had logs above and below it when I mined it out of the tree. Like, I was just too busy trying to get it. But when I was doing that, you probably have more experience with them than I do. So do they appear sandwiched between two pale oak logs in the world?
They do, yeah. That's how they naturally generate. They are encased in the trees. And if you mine away the blocks around them, if you get to see the Creaking Heart while it's active, it's glowing, and then you remove one of the logs above or below it, and it will stop glowing. And so that gives the player some kind of indication of how that works.
Yeah, so with the ambient sounds, like I like the idea, but I don't know how we could do it in a way that would be controllable. And another side of it too, like if the ambient thing was something that was part of the environment, then that would also be a way to encourage players to build in certain locations. Like if you wanted the cricket sounds and it was in the swamp, well, then you'd have to build in the swamp. But then you run into that whole back and forth of like, well, what if I don't want to build in the swamp? Like the sounds in the ambient environment in a pale garden is kind of cool, but like, what if I don't want to build in a pale garden? What if I don't want the pale grass color? Like, there's a bunch of things like that come into play. But I like the idea of having more ambient sounds in Minecraft, but I don't know how you give the player control over that other than very specific items, or maybe making it part of the magic in the world. Like we do have magic in Minecraft, and you could easily have something enchanted, or even just having some sort of crystal or object, or something like a flower that you could maybe make a potion out of, like thinking about flowers that might be native to only specific biomes, like the lilies or tulips, things like that. And if, say, like a flower forest was the only place that you had like birds chirping, then maybe if you had that assigned to tulips or a specific combination, or like, again, maybe if you enchanted a flower on the enchantment table, you can get the sounds. But again, like how do you know how to do that as a player?
Yeah, I think they've actually done this already with the combination of pale hanging moss and either pale oak leaves or pale oak logs. Those two in combination produce that ambient sound you hear in the Pale Garden. It's not like restricted to the biome itself the way nether biome ambience is. And I can see them doing this with future biomes. The difficulty is applying it retroactively, because there are already block combinations that exist in all of these different biomes that will be so easily reproduced elsewhere. And pale hanging moss feels like something that is very location specific, while a lot of other resources are shared between biomes. If you did that in the swamp with vines hanging off of oak leaves, then you'd get that in the jungle as well, because jungle ambience would end up being the same, interacting vines with oak leaves, which would happen all the time there. And I imagine a lot of players will already have decorated their own trees that way, and so suddenly if that's attached to the sound of crickets chirping, then players might be getting ambience there that they didn't want through a fairly innocuous combination of blocks. I think with the pale hanging moss, it's only likely to be used in scenarios where that creaking noise might be desirable because it looks kind of spooky, and so as a result you're looking for it in like a haunted house environment where it's meant to feel like cobwebs and dust hanging from the ceiling and that kind of thing. So I think maybe it's about finding things that are purpose built to produce that kind of ambience, introducing them into the natural world, but then allowing players room to experiment with the materials and then having them realize through that they can reproduce the sound anywhere, which is a lot less direct than just having an ambience block that's a sort of, one-size-fits-all solution to any scenario. But I think it's ultimately what ends up giving the immersion that we said we really wanted in survival. Email number 2 comes in from Crazy King with the subject of creaking lore. Hey, Joel and Johnny, I think that the creaking as a mob is a super cool idea, and the lore of it being a puppet to the creaking heart is also awesome. Could there be a greater lore aspect for the creaking, though? How did the Pale Garden biome, obviously not a real-life biome, come to be? I think the creaking heart was made by the ancient people of Minecraft using advanced magic, or maybe it was made by the Illagers. When the people made it, it began to suck the life out of the trees nearby to give life to the creaking. I think that's a good explanation for the paleness of the biome and why it might look similar to the dark oak forest. That's all. Crazy King was killed by a creaking because he looked away to listen to this podcast.
You can listen with your ears.
Yeah, well, we've added a video element, but if it's causing unnecessary creaking incidents, then yeah, both of the sign-offs for these last two have basically been, I wasn't paying attention, and I feel like that's on you in a Minecraft context, right?
Yeah, we need to come up with a way that if somebody is not watching the YouTube video, we get closer to the camera, and then when they stop, then when they look at us, we freeze.
We ninja cat people over the course of an episode, yeah.
Totally. It's funny. I was thinking about this pre-show, and I don't tend to build lore in my head around what's in Minecraft or why Minecraft is the way that it is. I still build lore, or at least a sense of history, but it has to do with my builds. It's how do I make sense of what I'm doing, not how do I make sense of what Mojang is doing. Yeah. I just kind of like smile and nod like, okay, Mojang, I guess that's how Minecraft is. Minecraft is just Minecraft to me. And so I don't try to explain away or give a reason to the things in the world as they are. I really think about Minecraft more as like a palette for an art program. And then I kind of build my own lore around that. But obviously Minecraft as a sandbox game lends itself really well for folks that want to try to come up with explaining everything. Villagers, golems, creaking, we had lots of lore ideas when the Warden first came out. And so I think it's a really cool idea to think about the lore behind Minecraft and how people come up with explaining the things and how they work. And I was wondering, because I really liked this about Minecraft Dungeons, in that even though I was familiar with Minecraft, I didn't mind that Minecraft Dungeons was giving us these little cinematic stories about the Arch Illager and what the Illagers are doing, and they're kidnapping villagers. And so right away, like, you get a very clear, like, good guy, bad guy. You get kind of a mission for yourself. I feel like it makes a more sense for like the magic and the monsters of the world and stuff seemed a little bit more straightforward in Minecraft Dungeons. I wonder if Minecraft could benefit from like a little cinematic trailer that would maybe explain something like the creaking. So like we got a new update, the Garden Awakens, and the creaking is the new mob, and there'd be like a little animated trailer. And instead of just it being like a silent pantomime Minecraft character running through the world as they often do, it could be like a voiced over, like, deep in the dark of the Pale Garden, the creaking was created by whatever, like however they decide to come up with it. And I just wonder if it could be done in a way that wouldn't necessarily take away the agency of coming up with lore from players, but give them a springboard. Like, don't have it be so specific, like this is like the way that creakings are made, but it could be something explaining, like similar to what Crazy King came up with, was like, nobody knows where the creaking came from, but it chases you around when you're not looking, and like kind of give people an idea from an in-game cinematic about what to expect, and then kind of give them some springboards to jump from to come up with their own reasons for it being. I think that could be really cool, and it would feel a lot more modern too, I think, as far as video game, updates go.
Yeah, I think a lot of the lore around Minecraft has a tendency to get a little meta because of the nature of the player's relationship with the game. And some of that is kind of prompted by the way the end poem acknowledges you as a player and somebody who can shape the world around you, and this connection to dreaming and stuff. And I think that lends a weird kind of tone to it, where when they introduced the Pale Garden as something that feels like a graphical glitch, that almost feels like an in-world explanation for what's happened, right? It kind of feels like you can talk about Minecraft stuff in terms of the animals around you being mobs, even though that's a very in-game term. Like, that's a developer term to describe stuff that moves around in a space in a video game. Like, that's the term the community has adopted, and so you can imagine them using that in the in-world context of Minecraft as well, if you see Minecraft as like a living, breathing place. I'm kind of curious, actually, if the word mobs is going to get used at all in the Minecraft movie, because it's such generally accepted community terminology, but is it really the right thing to have somebody who's in the world describe that? Possibly not. Sidebar, just based on the email, I really think it would be funny if the creaking was an Illager experiment gone wrong, because Illagers are scared of them and they run away from them now. And I feel like that could be a real Frankenstein's monster moment for the Illagers. Bizarre, considering they've created Ravagers, which I find much more terrifying than a creaking, although for different reasons. But yeah, I think when it comes to the lore stuff, I don't tend to think too much about the place that this has in the story of Minecraft overall, because I'm so much more concerned about its interest to me from this point on, what it means for my world rather than what it means for the world of Minecraft in general. And Pale Gardens do feel like they kind of, they've either had the life sucked out of them in some way, or they are sucking the life out of the surrounding forest in the presence that they have. But that's not a process that we get to see. That's just something that has happened before we even got there. So everything about Minecraft feels like part of its history, which is weird when it's not there from the early days that you remember of Minecraft. Like, so much of the stuff that we talk about on the show week to week now has been added in more recent versions. And so it's very difficult to consider something being part of the history of Minecraft or just being undiscovered up to this point, because it simply didn't exist in the game up until now. And I think it's really odd to consider anything new having come from ancient origins as a result of that. But again, that's the meta angle of it. That's me knowing that this was released in December and didn't exist in my world before this. So I guess maybe from an immersion perspective, it's kind of hard for me to think of something as having an ancient past when it's only a couple of months old as a feature.
Our next email comes in from Sage, and it's about resin block colors. It seems like only a small number of folks are particularly excited about the new resin brick set. Do you think resin bricks would be more exciting if they could be dyed in all the colors? Sage. I think the hot color orange for the resin bricks does limit them a bit in terms of what you can use them for. It's a very specific use case. And I think part of the frustration there is when you receive a new block family, like you've got bricks, you've got stairs, you've got slabs, walls, that kind of stuff. And it's in a color that is so specific that it becomes difficult to use in your other builds or with other blocks. I think players immediately kind of default to like, well, but why can't we just have it in the colors that we want, right? Like, why did you make it this specific color? Dyeing it all colors would be fun. If they did that, to keep it true with what the resin has been presented as, they would be very bright. You're not talking about like subtle colors. You'd be talking very bright yellows and greens and blues, which again could be very fun. We don't have many textured blocks in those colors. The closest is concrete, but concrete is very smooth and doesn't really meld well with other blocks in that way. If I was to get colored blocks in that way, I would prefer it to not be the tight, small resin brick texture. I would rather have colored bricks in the actual stone brick texture that we have, in a way that you could have it look like you've got a painted wall, right? Like if you had stone bricks, then you had red stone bricks, it would look like that had been painted or colored somehow. And that would be, I think, more useful for me. But I find that when these kind of ideas are suggested, the first thing that comes to mind is like, well, if you do that for that particular brick, then why haven't you done it for others? And then also you have the inventory problem of now you have 16 variants of each of the new blocks from the resin, including the resin one. Because if the resin orange isn't the native orange, like if there's a different orange, then you've got 17 versions of all these blocks. And like, where do you put them? How do you store them? Like, it just becomes a potential nightmare if you're going to be using them a lot. And so I think that's probably why they don't go down that road. It would be neat if they had a blank slate block, or like some sort of like new block that they might add that could be dyed and was intended to be dyed. That might be a different approach. But I think with these, like, they're just kind of going down a very specific color, I guess, funnel for a reason, but I don't know what that reason is. We've not received an explanation, and that's why I would love to have more behind the scenes. I mean, personally, as an artist, I just would love that kind of stuff, but I think it would help Mojang from a development standpoint to have like the texture artists or people either on camera in a little featurette or in a book talking about the art and the reasons why we decided to just go with the bright orange. Like, why is it bright orange and not bright yellow? Like what were the colors decided on, and why is it this way? And if they have, the artist's thoughts or the developer's thoughts behind that, then I think it would help with people reaching for these solutions or feeling frustrated. And that, like, well, yes, it would be nice if we had it in other colors, but it wasn't intended that way. And you and I know that because we talk about Minecraft development all the time. But I feel like sometimes Minecraft doesn't communicate why they've done something as often as I think they should.
Yeah, I mean, just doing a quick Google image search for tree resin, you get a lot of pine and like fir tree sap, all of which does have a fairly orange glow to it. And then from there, imagining what would happen if you made a cubic meter size block out of it, I guess you kind of end up with what you get from resin. But I think it's partly due to the color harmony they decided on for the Creaking's design and its eyes, and them needing the Pale Garden to have some sort of thematic consistency when it comes to the colors it provides to the game, or in some cases, I suppose, removes from the game, if you're talking about the previous email and the lore idea for why the garden is so pale. But yeah, knowing a good handful of builders, you and I included, like, I don't think anyone was expecting bright orange bricks to show up at any time soon. And my personal wish list, I think I've heard Fwip and a few others say this, is something in more of like the royal blue range, but that wouldn't work for the Pale Garden as the aesthetic at all because it feels too rich and like I think the contrast between this incredibly bright warm color and this incredibly pale grayish tree color makes more sense. It kind of like it provides that complementary color thing a little bit. So I can see why they've made the decision. It's just a matter of like why they made that decision over introducing something that provides a different set of colors that people are more excited about. To go back to the email here, do I think resin bricks would be more exciting if they could be dyed? Of course, having 16 colors of everything is always quote-unquote better, but then, yeah, you end up with several of those that I can't imagine too many people using, and I think, yeah, you do run into the issues that Joel already outlined with inventory management and everything else. I think everyone's answer to any new block is immediately, can we dye it? And the same is true of Pale Oak. Now that they provided a white wood type, they thought, well, it's just logical that we can dye this 16 different colors because it's such a pale base color that it would make sense. And the answer to that is yes, but we don't know if that's necessarily the right step to go to yet, because of how much inventory management it piles on top of you and all of the extra steps required to implement all of the variants of different blocks. Resin will have a lot fewer variants than wood in terms of its craftable stuff. Stairs, slabs, pressure plates, fences, all of that kind of stuff comes out of wood, whereas I think resin just has stairs, slabs, chisel variant, and walls. But even then, you've got to work that out for all 16 colors. That's a lot of additional blocks. Yeah, I think Mojang likes to pitch the community a curveball, is the ultimate answer to this, is that we get new blocks relatively infrequently, considering this is a game that one of the primary things you do in it is build, and they could add all kinds of things, and people are always adding stuff with mods that just provides a palette of blocks that they feel like should fit the game, but the vanilla game gets updated with that stuff so infrequently that we're sort of left to be inspired by whatever they add, rather than them adding whatever we can imagine right out of the gate. And so I've seen a few people working with resin now who've built some really interesting stuff. I want to give a quick shout out to a Reddit post that I saw from DanCSA222, or possibly Danksa222, who built a resin castle in this update, and there's a lot of deep slate gone into the frame, there's a tough roof, and then the majority of the wall is resin, red sandstone, magma blocks, and a few other things. And I think a lot of what works about this is the architecture and the fact that they're using shaders, which adds a certain warm glow to the scene in general, just from simulating something closer to the tone of natural sunlight. But they've done a really great job of making a stylish looking house and picking both a biome that it works really well in. I think the first time I saw resin, they shared a screenshot of resin bricks in a forest biome, and the color doesn't go well with the grass color there at all, and so it stood out really strongly. But that might have just been a way to illustrate this is what this looks like in the default Minecraft environment, because everybody knows what a forest looks like. Whereas if you put this in a savanna biome, which is what this Reddit poster has done, naturally the yellow tones of the grass and trees around them, plus the copious amounts of like mud brick and dirt that are present in the scene here, they've actually managed to get it into a warmer feeling environment already, and it feels like it fits the structure of the world around it slightly more with how bright the build is. It's also a fantastic build, but beyond that,
it really is.
Yeah, I think the color harmony that they've kind of thrown together, they've used a lot of material that would probably be in somebody's pixel art, like large scale statue of the creaking itself. And so they've worked with the colors that Mojang has given us and taken them into a structural element that isn't present in the vanilla game by default. And I think that's what we're really meant to do with new blocks like this when they come along, even if we can't in isolation consider a resin brick and go, yeah, I know immediately how to build with that. You've just got to start to push the envelope a little bit and figure out what Mojang would like you to do with bright colors like this. So when a blue block comes along, I imagine a ton of people are going to start using it for roofs in these fantasy medieval builds and stuff. But I imagine there will be people who take that to oceans, people who take that to ice biomes and start building like frozen fortresses with it and stuff. And there are going to be people whose imaginations are sparked by different inclusions in the game. And I think Resin is meant to be one of those. It's just coming out of left field because nobody was expecting orange bricks anytime soon.
And there also could be, a greater plan as well, where Minecraft is going to be updating more often, and there could be other bricks coming with other ideas that they've not told us about that go very well with resin bricks. It's just that when resin bricks are added now, they have no friends or few friends. I mean, I can't say no friends because this build looks fantastic, but it's not immediate to most players. It's not obvious what you can use resin bricks for, but add 2 updates to Minecraft over the next year and a half or more, and figure out like, oh, wait a minute, now resin bricks goes really well with these other new things that they've added, right? So, and you just don't know. My first thought when I saw resin bricks was that it would go well in the Nether, just because of how much lava and how red and orange and things are in the Nether. And I guess to that point, there's a lot of magma blocks used in this castle design too. But also, like, if you have something like the end where there really isn't anything, like if you go out far enough, then you're just kind of with the void, and then your resin blocks are going to look fine against the purpley blue, deep black space void, color. Then it's up to you as to what it goes with and how it looks, right? So I think that there's definitely some potential there, but it's just very specific right now. I do hope I can use it in my sci-fi build. Like, it's such a bright color and such a unique thing. I'm wondering if I can find a use for it, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think we're so used to building with a muted color palette because it feels like a more natural way to treat the world around us that we don't leave a lot of room for super bright colors in stuff. So blocks like resin can be difficult to adapt to, but adapt we shall. The final email from this episode comes in from Safir Augen, who's a community miner in our Discord, by the way. Thank you so much for the support. The subject this time is Minecraft merch. Hello, Joel and Pixel Riffs. I couldn't play as much Minecraft lately as I wanted to, so I shifted my focus to my Minecraft merch, doing a Minecraft jigsaw puzzle, rebuilding some Minecraft Lego, or browsing through the World of Minecraft book. I highly recommend the book for every Minecraft lover. I was wondering what kind of Minecraft merchandise you own or would want to have. Mojang collaborated with a lot of brands this year to celebrate their 15th anniversary and brought a lot of products to the market. Did you get anything special? Keep up your great work with the podcast. Safra Augen got all sparkly after taking a bath with a diamond ore bath bomb. Yeah, I forgot there was a Lush collaboration in there as well. That was wild. There's been so much stuff going on this year that I find it very difficult to keep track of all of the merch that's out there. But how about you, Joel? Do you have any Minecraft merch in your home?
I'm not a big merch guy. I haven't ever really been in far as like Funko or like figurines, like that kind of stuff. I do have a lot of Lego, and a lot of it happens to be Star Wars, but I've certainly branched out. But I don't think about that as merch so much as I do, because I think Lego maybe makes it different for me. Although, that said, when I was thinking about this in terms of what I was looking for from Safarelgan, the crafting table is a Lego set that I don't know whether we talked about this on the show or not. I've certainly talked about it on the Citadel Cafe as one of my internet picks. But it's a really neat like diorama of a crafting table from Minecraft. But then when you take the sides off, it's like a little miniature display of like a Minecraft environment, like a hillside, the biome. And that to me is something that I find really appealing, but probably more so because I now do a lot of on-camera work with a stream face cam and obviously the camera for this podcast. And so I've been thinking about different Minecraft themed things to have in the background. Very similar to like your starting soon screen on your Twitch page. It's like a shot of like some Minecraft merch that you have around the studio, and it's just kind of like a timer running, and just it's like a live shot of this stuff. And I've been thinking about that kind of thing. So while I do have a lot of Lego around, like it's not all one thing. And most of the Minecraft Lego that I looked at, I was curious about it when it first came out. But a lot of it is very kid focused. They're very playset focused. They're very small. They're meant to be more just like little toys as opposed to more display models, which is what I find I find appealing about even the Star Wars stuff that I buy. I tend to not get like the play sets. I'm not a merch guy in that I want to collect all the things. I just want the specific things that I find interesting and cool and worth my investment. And so like you can see the TIE fighter on the computer behind me. And that is a really large, kind of like really complicated UCS set. And I would have those over the smaller models any day. That said, I did get a gift from Grandpa Crafter that I did mention on the show before, which you can see again, part of that on the desk behind me as well. And that is a Minecraft themed Lego set that Grandpa Crafter designed based on the main gate to Westhill, which is a Minecraft theme, but obviously specific to me, something that I built in Minecraft that was designed as a mock set for Lego. And sent to me as a gift. So that I think is probably the closest I've got to Minecraft merch around. I think someone somewhere gave me a little creeper figurine as a joke, as a gift, but like it's not something I have out and about. And I don't have anything like Minecraft shirts or hats or anything like that. How about you? Do you have any Minecraft merch kicking around that either you collected this year or from previous years?
I don't think I have too much that's from this year. Most of my Minecraft merch is gifted. I've been fortunate enough to take part in a few Mojang events where they were able to like send over like a little care package of stuff to accompany something for like Minecon. I think the one I probably use the most is that like most of the time we cut out the bits where we're drinking like, you know, taking a sip of tea or water or whatever on this podcast, but I have a Minecraft Live pint glass that I just use for basically every recording, every stream that I do. I'm like, make sure that glass is available because, I don't know, it's just part of my routine at this point. But behind me on the little shelf that's back there, as part of my stream background, it's difficult to see when the lights are on, but I have like a plush zombie back there. There is a creeper nightlight that no longer has batteries in it because it was going to run down the battery if I lit it up every time. There's a skeleton mug back there. A couple of little Minecraft Legends figures that I got from the Minecraft Legends launch event, some Lego minifigs, and my favorite actually is a metal coin that commemorates the launch of the Minecraft Marketplace, which is never something that I've been involved with, but I got it from Mark Watson, who works for Mojang, and I met him at the first Minecraft Earth, it was back then, the Minecraft Earth watch event that took place in London, the one thing that I attended in person for a Minecon style event. So I got that from him, and that's like a really fun, solid object that feels very, very nice. Kind of similar to the Minecraft Championship has those kind of commemorative coins for the winners and stuff, right? So yeah, I have those, and I have a little bit of Minecraft Lego that was sent to me as a collaboration with Lego Group for a promotional thing that I did, and I turned those Lego sets into a custom build of my own custom-built mountain and ski lodge from the first season of Minecraft Survival Guide. And I think that's the thing about Lego sets for me. The crafting table one, I think, works really well as far as the iconography of the game goes, because it's something that every player is familiar with and would recognize. But a lot of the smaller Minecraft Lego sets are just scenes, and they're not necessarily relevant to everybody's gameplay experience or the kind of stuff that they would build. So those feel like they're really there to promote you doing your own thing with them in the same way that you build your own stuff in Minecraft itself. But it feels like the sets as sold don't really resonate with me in the same way that, you know, a particular piece from a sci-fi franchise like Star Wars or whatever would. Like, you're familiar with the iconography of an X-Wing, but Minecraft doesn't really have a whole lot of stuff like that that's not generated structures, which are typically, you think of like a desert temple, for example. There's only really 2 blocks in a desert temple, so would not be the most stimulating Lego build to just make a pyramid, you know? So yeah, I think there's a bit of a mix of stuff that I have around. The stuff that I bought myself, I own both of C418's Minecraft soundtrack vinyls. I have one of them framed back there. It's kind of difficult to see. Once again, also back there is the Builders and Biomes board game. I never followed up and bought any of the other board games that they released. I think there are a couple more now. There was one that was like Race to the Nether or Through the Nether or something. I remember us talking about on the show a while back. I don't have any of those, even though I've been expanding my horizons when it comes to board games and tabletop games and stuff lately. So maybe some of those are on the radar. Maybe I'll check those out at some stage. But yeah, I don't think I got anything new this year to my knowledge. The funniest thing is, I actually had a piece of Minecraft merch before I ever played Minecraft, but that came from one of those general like loot crate boxes where they just sent you a monthly package of nerdy stuff, and in that was a blind bag that contained a keyring with a sheep attached to it. And yeah, that's just in my background and has been there since. I mean, I've owned it since probably 2012 or 2013, like a year or two before I started playing Minecraft at all. But yeah, the merch has been knocking around for a little while. I don't know if I'm going to get any for Christmas. I feel like a lot of people know that I've got all of the Minecraft stuff that I could ever need in the game at this point. But they've had some, like I said, pretty high-profile collaborations this year. So I'm sure there's some stuff people have saved up for Christmas presents and the like.
There could be more coming too with the April 4th release of the movie. I'm assuming merch around that is going to be pretty hefty. I'm sure that there will be some Lego releases that are waiting, whether they're movie related or not, even just to have that kind of stuff come out at the same time as the movie when it, like the world is talking about it. I also think that there could be, the popcorn buckets and like all the movie paraphernalia that goes around with that, shirts. There are some very odd things about the film, and I don't know whether they're going to lean into how really strange the sheep looks, or the public's reaction to the sheep. That kind of stuff could be interesting. But usually with movies, there's a lot of merchandise that flies around, so we'll have to see what happens there. We might get it for the movie. I don't know if it's going to be. It's probably will be specific to the movie and less so for the game. But I would be on board for an art of book. I've mentioned this a number of times on the show. About Minecraft. Any kind of like concept art book. I used to collect them. I used to have like one for every Disney movie. Like I used to have all the different art of books when they were bringing those out when I was working in animation, because they were great for reference. They were just beautiful objects in general, just to kind of leaf through and look at like illustration background plates from something like Sleeping Beauty, where you see it filmed, but you don't ever really see it in its entirety when it's like, 4 feet long and, something that the camera would pan across. But to see it like in its full composition in a book is just like, oh my goodness, like this is just beautiful, beautiful artwork. And so stuff like that could be very interesting to see how they came up with different concepts for the Minecraft movie and or the game in an art book. So that would be something that I would be interested in. But yeah, I haven't picked up anything this year. The crafting table's on my radar for Lego. Like that's definitely on my short list. I have a couple of other things I'd like to pick up from Lego too, so that it may not be at the top, but that's something that I'm looking into. Yeah, I haven't picked up anything this year, and I don't have a physical music collection like you do. I do have the albums, but I have them digitally, on iTunes, or now through my subscription for Apple Music, I can just access the new music whenever it comes out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been listening to the newer soundtracks just through Spotify or whatever service I can grab them on. Sometimes pulling them out of the game files themselves, but yeah, some of the newer music isn't even in the game, in the case of the Pale Garden soundtrack, which is something I'm still meaning to listen to, so I'll have to catch up with that. When it comes to the movie merch idea, I wonder if we're going to see any iconography of like Jack Black as Steve being out there with like the normal Minecraft Steve character, and ultimately, probably creating some kind of schism in the community of which Steve people think is canon. So that's going to be fun to see, but more on that, I'm sure, in the new year. For now, I think we are going to wrap up this episode of The Spawn Chunks there. Thank you so much for sending in all that email, folks. Really great to do an extra mailbag episode over the holidays. You can find more information about the show and links to some of the stuff that we've talked about today over at thespawnchunks.com. The music for the show is composed by me, and The Spawn Chunks is proud to be a listener-supported podcast. If you're getting some value out of the show, why not consider putting some value back in? You can do that at patreon.com/thespawnchunks. Joining at any level gets you an invite to our patrons-only Discord chat. You can listen to the show live when we record it every Monday, although obviously we're taking a bit of a break over the holidays, so expect that to resume in the new year. We also have our monthly hangouts, once again resuming in the new year. Quarterly hangouts will be coming up as well. Plenty of bonus Patreon stuff if you are into any of that. Once again, that's patreon.com/thespawnchunks. And over there, at the time of this recording, we have 308 patrons, which is holding steady from the Monday 9th show, which is the last one we recorded. Special thanks go out to our content engineer patrons, Hunter555, Jumbo Sale, Mindtrip Media, Party Voyager, and Yitz. Thank you all for your support on this episode.
Sharing the podcast with your friends is the easiest way to support the show. Just tell a friend about the Spawn Chunks and where they can go to listen to it. You can find us on social media at the Spawn Chunks. New episodes are available on Mondays, and that includes the video version on YouTube. You can email the show at spawnchunkmail@gmail.com. The RSS feed is on the website, which is thespawnchunks.com, and the patron-only RSS feed is on the Patreon page. That's where you can listen to the render distance, the extended version of the podcast.
My name is Johnny, but online I go by Pixelriffs. You can find most of what I do at youtube.com/pixelriffs, where the Minecraft Survival Guide is currently in its 3rd season. I also stream 3 days a week on Twitch, where I do behind-the-scenes work for my YouTube series and play other games from time to time, taking a bit of a holiday break, but I'll be back as soon as I can. I'm also the voice of the unofficial Hermitcraft recap, which you can find through a quick YouTube search, and aside from that, I'm at Pixelriffs on both Blue Sky and Instagram. Joel, where can people find you online?
Everything that I'm doing online can be found at joelduggan.com. That includes a link to the Citadel Cafe, my podcast about sci-fi and fantasy entertainment. The latest episode is probably the holiday roundtable, actually, by the time you listen to this. I do that every year. I grab the people that have come on to the show over the course of the year, invite them back for a casual roundtable where we talk about basically anything nerdy that's going on over the holidays. So you can look forward to that. You can also check out the streaming work that I do on Twitch. That's at twitch.tv/JoelDuggan, very easy to find. And I'm bouncing back and forth between Minecraft and, of course, Satisfactory, where I'm working on the Fixmas holiday seasonal event, where we're making like Christmas decorations and stuff for Christmas trees with factories. It's pretty amusing. And the best part about that is the voiceover from the administration digital assistant, Ada, in the game, who does not want me to complete the Fixmas event. They find it very unproductive, and the snark is real. It's a really fun written event in the game. So check that out. It's at twitch.tv/JoelDuggan.
Thanks for visiting the Spawn Chunks. The world outside is infinite. Happy holidays.